Back live tonight on In Focus. Questions have been raised about the future of the DA-led multi-party charter for South Africa after ActionSA withdrew from the pact. The party, which secured just over 1% of the national vote, maintains that it wants nothing to do with the ANC. Let's get reaction now from the ACDP. She's also part of the multi-party charter. Its Deputy President, Wayne Thring, joins us now for more reaction. Mr. Thring, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time this evening. Were you surprised by the pulling out of ActionSA, or did they give you, I suppose, signs, signals of that intention?
No, I think that I'm not surprised, and certainly that there were signals from ActionSA in our meetings that we had. The last meeting that we had just before the elections was a very difficult one. It was a meeting that I personally chaired. And I think very clearly ActionSA expressed some of their disappointment. And then our meeting after the elections were held, ActionSA again expressed its disappointment with the outcome of some of our meetings, as well as the direction that they felt some of the other, in essence, one or two political parties, maybe three, were taking, which was not in keeping with the tenets of the multi-party charter, the principles that had been put together by the different political parties.
Do you think, now that when you look back, it was a good idea to go into this agreement before campaigning? Should you have not campaigned first and then after going into the agreement? Because there are others who are analyzing the situation and saying this was a DA coup on the smaller parties, because once you were in the agreement, then it was difficult for you to campaign, for example, against the DA, and they could break the principles in the end, and all of you didn't know any better at the time that they would.
No, I think, Thabo, recall that the ACDP, initially when the DA first mooted the idea, which was the Moonshot Pact, the ACDP did not join. The ACDP was not a part of a Moonshot Pact because we disagreed with the DA in terms of the establishment of this Moonshot Pact. No political parties, no leaders were informed. We just had an announcement by the DA leader at their conference that there was a Moonshot Pact. And then secondly, there was this indication that a political party was public enemy number one. So the ACDP leader had our leader, Dr. Meshwe, had a meeting with the leader of the DA and indicated that we will not be a part of the Moonshot Pact because, one, we were not consulted. Two, we have no enemies. We disagree with the ideologies and the philosophies of certain political parties, but we have no enemies. And so the ACDP was not a part of the Moonshot Pact. We were not even a part of the initial signing of the multi-party charter. But I think after consideration, when it wasn't even the DA that approached us, it was one of the other political parties that approached us and said, look, things have now changed. This is not a DA-led multi-party charter. This is a multi-party charter where all are equal. And the parties that are currently present have made it very clear to the DA that this is not DA-led, that it is a charter that is going to be led equally by all political parties. So that was the first thing. Secondly, the ACDP had also indicated that we do not believe that any coalition can be meaningfully established before an election. We put it out there that our belief is that you can only have proper coalitions once the results of an election have been made known. And that has always been the ACDP's position, and we've made that very clear all along. And the multi-party charter was not a coalition. What the multi-party charter was, it was looking at putting together a framework for a possible coalition so that one wouldn't be unnecessarily running around, if it were possible, to put together a coalition. Yeah. And even then, parties that were a part of the multi-party charter could choose whether or not to be a part of a possible coalition after the elections. I think within the multi-party charter, it was also very clear that when campaigning, every political party present would campaign under its own banner, would campaign individually, separately, and not under any one party, whether it's the DA or the ACDP or any other party. But every party would maintain its independence and function in that way, and campaign in that way, which is what the ACDP did. Bearing in mind also that in the Western Cape is one of the strongest support bases for the ACDP, and very clearly we are a part of the opposition to the DA in the Western Cape, and I think that we actually do a very good job in opposing some of the policies of the DA and some of the legislation as well of the DA in the Western Cape. So I do not think that the multi-party charter was putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, but it was just a framework, as I indicated, for a possible coalition after the elections.
So Section 7 says the signatories to the multi-party charter for South Africa commit to South Africa and to one another. Are the parties still committed to one another?
Well, I think that this is a part of the challenge that we actually had in one of our meetings, where the commitment to the prescripts of the multi-party charter and whether political parties were going to continue to adhere to those prescripts. So I'm not going to be mentioning names, and I think that those political parties also would need to speak for themselves. And we're probably still going to have one or two meetings to determine the course of the multi-party charter, despite the fact that we've had a resignation from ActionSA. But I think that the commitment to the multi-party charter, that is something that has to be determined by your other political parties, bearing in mind that Section 9 of the multi-party charter speaks about the dissolution clause or the resignation of political parties and how they are able to exit the multi-party charter, and that essentially speaks to, I think, there are two ways in which that can be done. One is by resignation, and the other is whether a political party is kind of excommunicated because of either conflict of interest or not adhering to prescripts of the charter. And so that is what actually caused some of the tension, where some of the political parties felt that because the multi-party charter group, all of the parties that are signatories to that did not achieve the 50+1%, it now freed the political parties to go and have discussions with whoever they wanted to. Whereas within the charter, I think that there were some guidelines in terms of how and what should actually happen should the multi-party charter continue to function.
So here's a question then. Are you approaching the Government of National Unity talks at all? One, if you are approaching them, are you approaching them as a bloc, the parties that are left in the multi-party charter, or is the ACDP going at it on its own?
Well, I think that every political party and the leadership has to make a decision in terms of whether they are going to be a part of the Government of National Unity. The ACDP's principal position, well, let me say, it is a tentative position that the ACDP has put forward, that we will consider a government of national unity. It's based on the premise that South Africa comes first. The nation comes before the party. And if there is a need for the ACDP to ensure that the nation is prioritized when it comes to aspects of service delivery, when it comes to securing sufficient electricity demand supply, so that supply meets demand, when it comes to the water shortages that we are currently experiencing and infrastructure development and dealing with unemployment and so on. So where the ACDP is able to be a part of the solution, and if the nation is dependent on the ACDP. There's an in-principle decision taken by the leadership to explore that. However, I think it's going to be important to firstly hear what a GNU actually looks like. What are the prescripts of that? What is the remit of the GNU?
Yeah.
What are the conditions? What does it look like? And so I think that the ACDP will first want to interrogate the prescripts of a GNU before making a final determination. But let me also say that I think that we did meet together with the general, the ACDP General Holomisa from the UDM. The ACDP was one of the 6 political parties that was present, and a number of political parties, opposition parties to the ANC that is, were invited. But 6 political parties were in attendance. It would have been ideal if all political parties, and one of our demands was that we recommended, I wouldn't say it's a demand, but we recommended that all political parties, the leadership of all political parties, meet with the president and members of the ANC, since the announcement that the president made with regards to the establishment of a government of national unity.
Yeah.
So who is going to be involved? What does it entail? What does it look like? And so we said that it would be preferable for the political parties to be engaged and to be involved.
There are some who've given a view that this call, I don't know whether it's your view that it should include the Chief Justice, would constitute a violation of separation of powers.
Well, I think that is a view, obviously, of some, but we felt at the time when we discussed this that there currently is no Speaker of Parliament, and the Chief Justice is the de facto Speaker of Parliament, and the Chief Justice is going to be the one who's going to be swearing in the members of Parliament. But if the Chief Justice feels that it's going to be a conflict of interest, then the Chief Justice has the power and the means to decline the invitation, indicating that it would be a conflict of interest, and the judiciary should not get involved in the political affairs, so to speak, of the establishment of a GNU.
Yeah.
So it's up to the call is the Chief Justice, and very clearly from a legal parameter, the Chief Justice and those surrounding him would be in the best position to make that particular determination. But the political parties that were present felt that we could not go to the ANC. This announcement had already been made by them, and so we could not go to them and ask them to actually call this particular meeting. Because in a sense they were already compromised.
Yeah.
But we needed an independent arbiter, so to speak, in making sure that if there is going to be a GNU, that is going to be one that meets the needs of the country and not the need of one, and not the benefit of one political party. Bearing in mind that the ANC obtained the 60% of the voting population that voted against the ANC. And so in essence, there is that possibility that the ANC could actually be the opposition if the 60% were to kind of come together. Yeah. But obviously that's going to be quite difficult in our view, in the view of the ACDP, for the 60% of the parties that garnered the vote in a sense against the ANC, to actually come together. It would be almost a miracle for that to happen, for the ANC to become the opposition.
A quick one, Mr. Thring, before I let you go. Do you have any non-negotiables? I mean, are you looking for a position in cabinet? Are you looking for a position?
No, the ACDP is not going, when we do meet, the ACDP would not be going into this for power play, for positions. We are not asking for this is not about us. And that's why we said with the ACDP, our position is very clear. And the position is that South Africa first, the nation first. And so we're not going there making any demands. We're going there with open, we will go in to whatever negotiations that there may be with an open mind and open hand to listen first, then to interrogate what we hear before actually making a decision.
Appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Deputy President of the African Christian
Thank you, sir.
Democratic Party there. That is Wayne Thring. Still